My name is Natalie Mercer. I'm 29 years old, and the night my boyfriend told me he didn't see me as a girlfriend anymore, he said it with his feet up on our couch, his phone in his hand, and half my money keeping the lights on around him. That was the detail that stayed with me. Not just the words, the comfort. Because there was something especially humiliating about the way he said it, like he was revising a subscription plan instead of dismantling a 3-year relationship. Ryan was 27. We had been together for 3 years, and we had lived together for the last 18 months in a decent apartment with gray walls, narrow windows, and the kind of kitchen that always looked better at night with the pendant lights on. In the beginning, I used to think it felt like the first place I had built with someone. Not borrowed, not temporary. Built. At first, it really was good. Or maybe it just looked good from the angle I was standing at. Because when I replay it now, I can see the shift started long before that conversation on the couch. It just happened slowly enough that I kept explaining it away. Date nights turned into, we should save money. Weekend plans turned into, maybe next month. Sex turned into an occasional event that felt more like a favor than desire. He started going out more, always with work friends, always with stories that sounded casual and harmless, until I noticed how often those nights stretched past midnight. Happy hours, team drinks, last-minute plans, people from the startup, people I somehow never met. I kept trying to close the distance. I planned dinners at home, bought the whiskey he liked, suggested places we used to go when we were still the kind of couple who reached for each other without thinking. He would say yes, then cancel. Too tired. Work thing. Friend emergency. Headache. There was always something. Meanwhile, I was carrying the shape of our life with both hands. The rent on the apartment was $2,100. I paid $1,500. He paid $600. Utilities, internet, groceries, streaming services, random household supplies, even his car insurance for a stretch, after he said money was tight from some mess with repairs. Every month, I was spending around $2,600 to keep our shared life comfortable. Ryan worked part-time at a marketing startup and always had some explanation for why he was broke. Delayed payment, bad month, unexpected expense. I stopped questioning it because that's what love does when it wants to survive. It edits, it excuses, it fills in missing pieces with hope. The night everything cracked, I was sitting beside him on the couch and trying one more time. There's that new Italian place downtown, I said. The one with the rooftop patio. We should go this weekend. He didn't even look up from his phone. Can't afford it? I'll pay, I said automatically, because that had become my reflex before I even realized it. That was when he finally looked at me. And the look on his face was not tired, not conflicted, not guilty. It was impatient. Like I was a conversation he had already had in his head and was annoyed to be repeating out loud. We need to be honest about what this is, he said. Something in my stomach dropped so suddenly it almost felt physical. I remember setting down my glass too carefully. I remember the television murmuring in the background. I remember the smell of the vanilla candle on the coffee table and hating it instantly because I had bought it for us, and suddenly the whole apartment felt like a stage set I had paid for. What do you mean? I asked. He exhaled and finally put his phone face down on his thigh, like he was preparing to be generous. I've been thinking about us, he said. About what we actually are, and honestly, I don't see you as a girlfriend anymore. Silence. Heavy, immediate, almost loud. He kept going because that was the thing about Ryan. Once he convinced himself he was being honest, he mistook that for being kind. You're more like a roommate who pays bills, he said. We don't really have that spark anymore. We're not romantic. We're just two people sharing a space. I stared at him. I could feel my pulse in my throat. So, I said very evenly, you want to break up? He blinked, almost offended. God, no. Why would we do that? I laughed once, but there was no humor in it. You just said I'm not your girlfriend. I'm saying maybe we should stop pretending this is something it's not, he said. This setup works. The apartment's nice. We get along. There's just too much pressure when you call it a relationship. Expectations, drama, guilt. I think if we stop trying to force it, things will be easier. Easier for who? He ignored that. We'd basically be roommates, friends. No pressure, no relationship stuff. We just coexist. He said it so casually, as if he was offering a mature solution, as if he wasn't sitting in a home I mostly paid for, asking me to accept demotion while continuing the sponsorship. I looked at him for a long moment, then something inside me went very still. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even acceptance. It was clarity, a cold, clean kind. The kind that comes when pain finally stops arguing with reality. I nodded once. Okay, I said, roommates. He actually smiled. Relief moved across his face so fast it made me feel sick. "See?" he said. "I knew you'd get it. You're always so understanding." That word almost made me laugh again. Instead, I stood up, took my empty glass to the kitchen, rinsed it slowly under warm water, and stared at my own reflection in the black window over the sink. My face looked calm. That was the first thing I noticed. The second thing was that I no longer felt confused. Hurt, yes. Humiliated, absolutely. But not confused, because his meaning was suddenly obvious. He wanted freedom without loss, distance without consequence, space without sacrifice. He wanted to test whatever was waiting for him outside this apartment while still coming home to low rent, stocked cabinets, and a woman reliable enough to keep the machine running. He wanted the benefits of me without the burden of loving me. And he had made the mistake of saying it out loud. That night, he went back to scrolling, relaxed now, as if some annoying tension had finally been resolved. I went into the bedroom, sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and started running numbers. Rent, utilities, internet, groceries, insurance, streaming subscriptions, every shared expense, every quiet little monthly weight I had been carrying because I thought we were building towards something. I made a spreadsheet. Clean columns, clean totals, no emotion in the formatting at all. If we were roommates, then I wanted a real roommate arrangement. Real ones split rent evenly. Real ones paid their own insurance. Real ones bought their own food. Real ones did not confuse affection with access. I typed up everything carefully. Rent, $1,050 each. Utilities, split evenly. Internet, split evenly. Groceries, separate. Car expenses, individual responsibility. Streaming services. Each person pays for what they use. I read it twice, then once more. My cursor hovered for a second over the subject line before I typed, "Roommate expense agreement." Then I sent it to him. He didn't notice. Of course he didn't. He was still on the couch, smiling at something on his phone, one sock half off, completely at ease in the life I had financed for him. I closed the laptop and turned out the light. In the dark, I lay awake listening to the soft sounds of the apartment, the hum of the fridge, pipes ticking in the wall, his footsteps finally crossing the hallway long after midnight. He slid into bed beside me without touching me, and for the first time in 3 years, I didn't feel abandoned by that. I felt prepared, because by morning, the title he had given me was going to start costing him. He saw the email the next morning. I was in the kitchen making coffee when his phone made that soft little chime from the counter. He glanced at it, still half asleep, hair a mess, t-shirt wrinkled, and I watched the exact second his face changed. First confusion, then annoyance, then the first flicker of panic. "What is this?" he asked. I poured the coffee slowly before I answered. "An expense agreement." He stared at the screen again. "Natalie, what the hell is this spreadsheet?" I turned, mug warm in my hands. "Roommate expenses," I said. "You were right. If that's what we are, we should structure things correctly." He gave a short laugh, like I had made some dramatic joke before breakfast. "You're serious?" "Yes." He looked back down at the numbers. Rent split evenly. Utilities split evenly. Internet split evenly. Groceries separate. Car insurance his responsibility. Streaming separate. Everything clean, balanced, fair. His jaw tightened. "You're seriously making me pay half of everything now?" I took a sip of coffee before answering. "Well, yes, that's how roommates work." His expression sharpened. "You know I can't afford that." "Then you may need to adjust your spending," I said. "Or work more hours. Or we can both find a cheaper place when the lease ends." He stared at me like I had slapped him. "That's insane." "No," I said quietly. "What was insane was pretending this was still a relationship while you asked me to keep subsidizing it." His face went red. "That's not what I said." I tilted my head slightly. "You said I wasn't your girlfriend. You said I was basically a roommate who pays bills." He opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. "I didn't mean everything had to change overnight." "But it did," I said. The kitchen went very still. Sunlight was slipping through the blinds in pale gold stripes across the counter. The coffee maker hissed once behind me. Somewhere outside, a car alarm chirped and stopped. Everything ordinary. Everything almost painfully normal. And there we were, standing in the middle of it, finally speaking the truth in plain language. "You're being cruel," he said. "No," I replied. "I'm being accurate." He laughed again, but there was nothing amused in it now. "You make way more than me." "That mattered when I thought I was building a life with my boyfriend," I said. "It matters less with a roommate." He slammed his phone face down on the counter. "So this is punishment." This is math. He glared at me for another second, then grabbed his bowl from the drying rack so hard it clattered against the sink. You know what? He snapped. Fine. He poured cereal with angry, jerking movements, milk splashing onto the counter. He didn't wipe it. He left the bowl in the sink when he was done. Then he disappeared into the bedroom and shut the door hard enough to rattle the frame. I stood there another moment, coffee in my hand, staring at the small crescent of milk drying on the counter. Then I wiped it away. Not because he deserved the courtesy, because I was done letting his mood shape the room. That evening, I went to the grocery store alone. And for the first time in months, I only bought food for myself. Fresh berries, Greek yogurt, pasta. I actually liked salmon, sparkling water, dark chocolate with sea salt. Nothing grabbed in compromise. Nothing selected around his preferences. Nothing chosen to keep the peace. I also ordered a compact refrigerator online. It arrived 2 days later. He was home when I dragged the box into the apartment and started unpacking it in the spare corner of my office. What is that? He asked. A mini fridge. Why do you need a mini fridge? I plugged it in and adjusted the settings. Because my groceries are mine now. He stared at me like he genuinely could not believe I was carrying his own logic to its natural conclusion. You are being absolutely ridiculous. I smiled faintly. That seems to be a theme this week. When the fridge was cold enough, I moved my food into it and left the main refrigerator nearly empty on my side. His leftovers, half a bottle of barbecue sauce, wilted lettuce, a carton of eggs. That was it. He opened the kitchen fridge that night and just stood there. Where's the food? In my room. He turned slowly. You moved your food into your office? Yes. Why? Because roommates usually keep groceries separate unless they have an arrangement. This is insane. This is consistent. He dragged a hand down his face. Natalie, come on. I said nothing. His voice changed then, softened, lowered. The same tone he always used when he was trying to smooth me back into the position he preferred me in. Baby. I looked at him. Don't call me that. He blinked. What? You don't get to call me that. He stared like the correction had stunned him more than the spreadsheet. I didn't mean... I know, I said. That's the problem. You don't mean a lot of things until they cost you something. For a moment, he looked embarrassed. Then angry. Then, worst of all, wounded. As though my refusal to comfort him was somehow the injury here. Over the next week, he tried every version of resistance. First outrage. Then disbelief. Then bargaining. He complained about the rent split, about the internet, about how expensive groceries were, about how unfair it was that I was acting like a robot. When that didn't work, he tried nostalgia, mentioned our old favorite takeout place, suggested we watch a show together, lingering in doorways, standing too close in the kitchen, looking at me as if he could slowly stare me back into compliance. I did not move. Then came the first real crack in his convenience. His car insurance lapsed. I came home that Thursday evening to find him in the living room holding his phone like it was evidence in a trial. What happened to my insurance? He asked. I set my bag down by the door. I stopped paying it. You what? You said we're roommates. Roommates pay their own car expenses. His face darkened. Natalie, are you serious right now? Yes. I need that to get to work. Then you should pay for it. He laughed once, sharp and humorless. With what money? That sounds like a personal budgeting issue. He stared at me, really stared. And in that moment, I think he finally understood that this was not a phase, not a scene, not an emotional protest that would dissolve if he waited me out long enough. This was the new architecture. He had knocked down the wall. I was simply refusing to stand underneath the rubble. You're unbelievable, he said. And yet, I replied, very easy to understand. He swore under his breath and stormed off to his room. The next few days, his irritation took on a frantic edge. He started eating cheap instant noodles, started muttering at his banking app, started asking questions that were not technically requests, but definitely were not casual either. Do you have any extra coffee? No. Can I use your streaming login? No. Did you seriously cancel the premium grocery delivery too? Yes. I only pay for services I use. You are impossible. No, I said. I'm just no longer useful in the way you preferred. That landed. I could tell because he went very quiet after that. But the silence didn't last. A week and a half after the conversation on the couch, I downloaded a dating app. I didn't do it dramatically. There was no wine, no revenge playlist, no pep talk in the mirror. I was just sitting on my bed after work, hair still damp from a shower, wearing an old sweatshirt, and I realized something that felt both obvious and almost absurd. I was single. Not magically healed, but single. He had made that decision for us when he tried to keep the apartment and discard the relationship. So I made a profile. Simple pictures, honest bio, no bitterness, no performance. And within a few days, I matched with someone. His name was Adrian, 32, finance. Funny without trying too hard. The kind of man who answered questions directly and used punctuation like a functioning adult. We messaged for 2 evenings, then set a coffee date for Friday. I didn't tell Ryan. I had no reason to. Friday night, I was in my room getting dressed when he knocked on the half-open door. I turned from the mirror. He leaned against the frame and looked me over in a way he hadn't in months. Not tenderly, not admiringly, assessing. I was wearing dark jeans, a fitted black top, heels I had almost forgotten I owned, and the perfume I used to save for special occasions. My hair was down, loose over my shoulders, and for the first time in a long time, I had taken my time with mascara. He frowned. "Why are you dressed like that?" I picked up my earrings from the desk. "I'm going out." "With who?" I fastened one earring, then the other. "A date." The silence that followed was almost beautiful. His face changed so fast it was like watching a glass crack from the inside. "A what?" "A date," I repeated. "Coffee first, maybe dinner after." He stared at me. "You're going on a date?" "Yes." "With who?" "Someone I met." "From where?" "A dating app." He actually laughed in disbelief. "You're on dating apps?" I turned toward him fully then, one hand reaching for my bag. "Ryan," I said softly, "single people usually are." His jaw flexed. "You're not single." I held his gaze. His exact words came back to him before I even said them. I could see it happen. The memory, the recognition, the panic. "We live together," he said. "Yes," I said, "as roommates." "That's not—" "You were very clear." He pushed away from the doorway and stepped further into the room. "That's not what I meant." I slipped my phone into my purse. "Then what exactly did you mean?" He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I waited. He tried again. "I just thought—" I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I know," I said. "That's been the problem from the start." He looked genuinely rattled now, like the floor under him had shifted and he had only just noticed. "You can't just go date other people while living with me." "Why not?" "Because it's weird." "For who?" "For us." "There is no us." He flinched, very slightly. But I saw it. And because I saw it, I let the moment breathe for one full second before stepping past him and into the hallway. He turned after me. "Natalie." I picked up my keys from the entry table. "What?" His voice dropped lower, almost pleading now, almost angry, almost both. "Don't do this." I looked at him over my shoulder. My apartment keys were cold in my palm. My pulse was steady. My lipstick was perfect. And for the first time in weeks, I did not feel like the woman being left behind. I felt like the woman walking out of the frame with the ending still unwritten. "You already did," I said. Then I opened the door and left him standing there in the apartment he wanted to keep, finally learning what the word roommate really meant. The date was easy. That was the first thing that surprised me. Not perfect, not life-changing, not some cinematic lightning strike where everything suddenly made sense. Just easy. Conversation that didn't feel like work. Eye contact that didn't feel like negotiation. Laughter that didn't come with a quiet calculation behind it. Adrian listened. That alone felt new. We sat at a small cafe with warm lighting and slightly chipped ceramic cups, and for 2 hours, I didn't feel like I was trying to prove anything. Not my value, not my patience, not my worth as someone worth choosing. He asked questions, waited for the answers, responded like they mattered. At one point, when the check came, I reached for it automatically. He smiled and gently pushed it back. "Split it," he said. I blinked. "You don't have to." "I know," he said simply. "I want to." It was such a small moment, but it landed harder than it should have, because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't being positioned as the person who carried more. I wasn't being quietly expected to absorb the imbalance and call it love. We paid. We walked. We talked a little longer outside under the streetlights. And when I got into my car that night, I realized something I hadn't felt in months. I wasn't tired. When I got home, the apartment was dark except for the living room. Ryan was sitting on the couch. No TV, no phone, just sitting there, waiting. I closed the door behind me slowly, the quiet click echoing more than it should have. "It's late," I said. "We need to talk." I slipped off my shoes and set my keys down. "About what?" "You going on dates?" I exhaled softly. "We already talked about that." "No, we didn't," he snapped. "You said you were going out. You didn't say you were actually going to go meet some guy." "I did," I said calmly. "You just didn't like it." He stood up now. "That's not how this works." I tilted my head slightly. "Then explain how it does work. You don't just start seeing other people while living with me." "I went on one date," I said. "That's all." "That's the same thing." No, I said, it's not. His jaw tightened. You're acting like you're single. I held his gaze. I am. Silence. Sharp, immediate. You're not single, he said again, slower this time, like if he said it carefully enough, it would become true. We are not in a relationship, I replied. You made that clear. I didn't say you should go replace me. I almost smiled at that. I'm not replacing you, I said. There's nothing to replace. That hit. I saw it. The realization that his words were no longer abstract, no longer something he could soften or reshape depending on what he needed in the moment. They had consequences now, and I was living inside them. This is messed up, he muttered. No, I said quietly. This is consistent. He dragged a hand through his hair, pacing once across the room before turning back to me. You're doing this on purpose. Yes. He blinked. Probably didn't expect that answer. I'm doing exactly what you asked for, I continued. You said we're roommates, so I'm living like one. That's not what I meant, he snapped again. Then say what you meant. He opened his mouth, paused, closed it. Because the truth was ugly, and saying it out loud would mean admitting what he had actually tried to do. Keep me, without choosing me. I just wanted things to be less intense, he said finally. I nodded slowly. And I wanted a partner, I said. We both didn't get what we wanted. He stared at me like he was trying to find the version of me that used to bend around him. She wasn't there anymore. I don't like this, he said. You don't have to, I replied. You just have to live in it. I walked past him toward my room. He didn't follow. The next few days shifted, subtly at first, then all at once. Ryan started leaving things everywhere, not accidentally, deliberately. His jacket on the back of the couch, shoes in the middle of the hallway, dishes stacked in the sink, hair in the bathroom drain, toothpaste smeared across the counter like a quiet accusation. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But I didn't react the way he wanted. The first time I moved his things off the couch and folded the blanket neatly, he watched me. Stop touching my stuff, he said. It's in a shared space, I replied. Shared spaces stay usable. This is my place too. Exactly, I said, which means we both respect it. He let out a sharp breath. Oh my God, stop saying that. Saying what? Roommate stuff, rules. This isn't some random apartment. No, I said calmly. It's exactly that now. That was when the anger started to sharpen. Not loud, not explosive, just constant. A low, steady pressure in the air. He also started bringing people over more. Loud conversations, music at night, drinks on a Tuesday. One night, I stepped out of my room around midnight to find the living room full. 3 of his friends. One of them, the girl who had never liked me, looked up and smirked. Well, look who decided to join us. I ignored the tone. It's midnight, I said. I have work in the morning. Can you keep it down? She laughed. You're really going to tell him what to do in his own place? Our place, I corrected, that we both pay for equally. Ryan leaned back on the couch, watching, waiting. Relax, he said. It's not even that loud. It was. Music humming, voices layered, glasses clinking. I pulled out my phone. Ryan's eyes narrowed. What are you doing? Documenting a noise complaint. The room went still. His friend straightened. You wouldn't. I started typing. I'm documenting a pattern, I said, in case it becomes a lease issue. Silence. Then chairs shifted. One by one, they started gathering their things. Wow, the girl muttered. You're unbelievable. I didn't look up. Good night, I said. They left within minutes. The door slammed, and then it was just us again. Ryan turned on me immediately. What the hell is wrong with you? Nothing, I said. I just don't tolerate things that affect my sleep. You're trying to control everything. No, I said. I'm controlling what I can. He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Maybe he didn't, because the version of me he knew would have apologized by now. Softened, smoothed things over. That version was gone. You're ruining this, he said. I almost laughed. You already did, I replied. 2 days later, he tried something different. I came home to the smell of food. Real food. Not takeout, not something rushed. Dinner. Candles lit on the table. Music low in the background. Ryan stood in the kitchen, sleeves rolled, like he had stepped back into a version of himself I hadn't seen in months. Hey, he said. I paused in the doorway. What is this? He shrugged lightly. Just dinner. Thought we could hang out. I looked at the table, at the wine, at the careful arrangement, at the memory he was trying to recreate. Why? I asked. He hesitated, then stepped closer. I miss when things were good between us. I held his gaze. You said we didn't have anything worth keeping, I said. I was wrong. About what part? All of it. Silence. Heavy, real. He stepped closer. I miss you. I believed him. That was the dangerous part. But missing me wasn't the same as choosing me, and I had learned the difference. You don't miss me, I said softly. You miss how easy I made your life. His face fell. That's not fair. It's accurate. He reached for my hand. I stepped back, just slightly, but enough. We're roommates, I said, remember? His expression cracked. And for the first time, I saw something underneath all the frustration. Fear. Because he was starting to understand. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't a phase. This was the version of me that stayed. And he had no idea how to get back to the one who used to stay for him. My second date with Adrian felt steady. We had dinner at a quiet sushi place, the kind where the lighting is soft enough to make everything feel a little more intentional. We talked for hours again. Not rushed, not forced, just natural. At one point, when the bill came, I instinctively reached for it. He shook his head lightly. We're splitting, right? I smiled. Yeah. No hesitation, no weird power dynamic, no silent expectation. Just equal. It shouldn't have felt rare, but it did. When I got home that night, it was just past midnight. Ryan was waiting again. Lights off, sitting in the dark, like he hadn't moved since I left. I closed the door quietly behind me. We need to talk, he said. I exhaled slowly. You keep saying that. Because you keep ignoring me. I'm not ignoring you, I said. I'm respecting the boundaries you set. He stood up. You went out again. Yes. With the same guy? Yes. And you're just continuing like this? I set my bag down. Continuing what? This whole thing, he snapped. Dating. Acting like you're completely free. I am free. You live with me. As a roommate. His jaw clenched so hard I could see the tension in his neck. You know what I meant. No, I said calmly. I know exactly what you said. He laughed once, sharp and frustrated. This isn't normal. It is, just not for you. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing now, the same restless energy building again. You're doing this to get back at me. No, I said. If I wanted to get back at you, I'd be cruel. I'm just being consistent. That word again. Consistent. It followed him like the shadow now. I hate this version of you, he muttered. I met his eyes. This version exists because of you. Silence. Then something shifted. Not sadness, not regret. Something darker. Because when control doesn't work, some people switch tactics. It started small, annoying things. My phone unplugged overnight, so it died before my alarm. Packages arriving and mysteriously forgotten until I asked twice. The hot water running out right before I showered. At first, I said nothing. I just noticed. And then I started documenting. Time, date, what happened, a pattern. Because this wasn't random. This was strategy. Low-level disruption. Constant pressure. The kind that wears you down slowly if you don't name it. But I wasn't going to react emotionally. I was going to respond structurally. Then he escalated. One evening, I got an email from the building manager asking me to come by the office. I already knew. Still, I went. The manager looked uncomfortable the second I sat down. Your roommate came in, he said carefully. Said there are issues. What kind of issues? I asked. He shuffled papers. He said you're making him uncomfortable, that you've been bringing men over, that there's tension. I leaned back slightly. Did he mention that we are not in a relationship? He hesitated. He said you used to be. Exactly, I said, past tense. I let that sit for a second, then continued, calm, controlled. We both pay rent. On time. We're both on the lease. I've brought one guest over, once, for a few hours. No damage, no noise complaint, no violations. He nodded slowly. That's true. He told me directly, I added, that I'm not his partner anymore, that I'm just a roommate, so I started acting like one. He sighed. He seems upset. Being upset isn't a lease violation. That landed. He nodded again. No, it's not. Have I threatened him? I asked. No. Raised my voice? No. Touched him? No. Then there's no safety issue, I said. There's just a consequence issue. Silence. Then he leaned back. I'll note that, he said. Thank you. When I got home, Ryan was already there, waiting. Of course. You talked to the landlord? He asked immediately. Yes. And there are no violations. His jaw tightened. You made me look crazy. No, I said. You did that yourself. I wasn't lying. You said I was harassing you. You are. How? He opened his mouth. Paused. Because there was no answer. I'm living my life, I said. That's not harassment. You're flaunting it. I'm existing. He stared at me. I hate you. I nodded once. Okay. That broke something. I saw it. Because he had expected a reaction. Anger. Defensiveness. Emotion. Anything that meant I still cared enough to engage. But okay? That gave him nothing. And nothing is the most terrifying response of all. He snapped, grabbed the picture frame from the shelf and threw it across the room. Glass shattered against the wall. The sound cut through everything. Sharp, final. We both froze for a second. Then I looked at the broken pieces on the floor. Then back at him. Feel better? I asked. He didn't answer. He just stormed into his room and slammed the door. I stood there for a moment. Then I pulled out my phone. Took pictures. Sent them to the landlord. Property damage. Actual violation. Real consequences. The warning came the next day. Written. Official. And that's when everything spiraled. Because now he wasn't just losing control over me. He was losing control over the environment. His friends started showing up more. Not to hang out, to confront. Cornering me in the kitchen. Blocking doorways. Talking over each other like they were building a case. "You're destroying him," one of them said. I leaned against the counter. "He destroyed the relationship," I replied. "I'm just living in what's left." "You could fix this." "Fix what?" "He made a mistake. Then he can live with it." They exchanged looks like they couldn't process what they were hearing. Because in their minds, this wasn't supposed to happen. I wasn't supposed to hold the line. I was supposed to fold, apologize, go back, resume my role. But I didn't, and that made me the problem. "You're being cold," another one said. "I'm being clear." They didn't like that answer either. No one ever does when clarity removes their leverage. But the real shift, the one that changed everything, came from somewhere I didn't expect. Adrian. We were out walking after dinner, talking about work, people, industries overlapping in ways you don't notice until suddenly you do. He mentioned a guy, a startup. The description hit something in my memory. A name, a face. Someone Ryan had mentioned before. Casually. Too casually. "Wait," I said slowly. "What's his name?" Adrian told me. And just like that, something clicked. Hard. Because I had seen that name before. Not in conversation. On social media. In photos. Tagged, repeatedly. With Ryan. Bars. Parties. Late nights. The same nights he had been working late. The same nights I had been home alone. I felt something shift in my chest. Not heartbreak. Not even anger. Understanding. Cold, precise. Because suddenly, everything made sense. I didn't confront him right away. That was the first instinct I had to ignore. Because the moment you confront someone like Ryan, you give them something to work with. A chance to deny, to twist, to soften the edges just enough to crawl out of the truth. No, I wanted to see it clearly first. So that night, after I got home, I sat on my bed, opened my laptop, and searched. His name, the startup, the people tagged in those photos, and there it was. Not hidden, not even subtle. Months of pictures, bars, rooftop parties, group dinners, late-night work events that somehow always included the same people. And her, the woman, always near him, always laughing, always just close enough to blur the line between friend and something else. Same nights he had texted me, running late, work stuff. Same nights I had reheated dinner alone. Same nights I had convinced myself not to overthink it. I clicked through photo after photo, zoomed in, watched the body language, the way he leaned toward her, the way she touched his arm, the way neither of them looked like people trying to hide anything, because they weren't hiding. They were just waiting. And suddenly the conversation on the couch replayed in my head. Not softer, clearer. "I don't see you as a girlfriend anymore. We should just be roommates." No pressure, no expectations. It wasn't honesty. It was strategy. He wasn't ending things. He was downgrading them, so he could explore her without losing me, without losing the apartment, without losing the money, without losing the safety net. I sat there in the quiet of my room, screen light reflecting in the window, and for the first time, I didn't feel confused at all. I felt finished. The next few days, I didn't change anything. That was the part that got to him the most, because he expected escalation, a fight, an accusation, a scene. Instead, I stayed exactly the same. Calm, structured, consistent. Adrian came over a few times. Nothing dramatic. We cooked once, watched a movie, fell asleep on opposite sides of the couch one night without even realizing it. It felt normal, easy, in a way that didn't require effort. Ryan noticed everything. The way Adrian knocked instead of walking in. The way he said hello. The way he didn't act like he owned the space. The way he respected it. That bothered Ryan more than anything. Because comparison doesn't need to be spoken to be understood. One morning, Adrian stayed over. We woke up late, made breakfast together. Pancakes, coffee, sunlight pouring into the kitchen in that soft, quiet way that makes everything feel slower. I was laughing at something he said when Ryan walked out of his room. And stopped. Completely. He just stood there, staring. At the stove, at the plates, at Adrian, at me. His face drained of color. "Are you serious right now?" he asked. I glanced at him. "Morning. You're doing this here?" "I live here." "You're bringing him into my home?" I set the spatula down. "Our home," I corrected, "that we both pay for equally." His eyes snapped to Adrian. "You're just okay with this?" Adrian didn't even flinch. He just smiled politely. I'm here because she invited me. Simple. Direct. No tension. Ryan looked like he didn't know what to do with that. You're sleeping with him? He snapped at me. I didn't answer that. Not because I owed him privacy, but because he didn't deserve access. I'm seeing someone, I said instead. What that looks like is none of your concern. That hit him anyway, because that was the thing he thought he had taken away. You can't just replace me, he said. I tilted my head slightly. I didn't replace you, I said. You removed yourself. Silence. Adrian flipped a pancake like nothing had happened. Do you want some? He asked Ryan casually. There's extra. That almost broke him. I could see it. The mix of humiliation and disbelief twisting across his face. Because this wasn't a fight anymore. This was contrast. And contrast is brutal. Ryan grabbed his bag. You're unbelievable, he muttered. Then he left, door slamming behind him. Hard enough to shake the frame. Adrian looked at me. He always like that? I exhaled slowly. No, I said. He's adjusting. To what? I picked up my coffee. To consequences. After that, everything unraveled faster. Ryan started spiraling. Not loudly. Not all at once. But visibly. His friends stopped coming over as much. The late nights slowed. The confidence faded. Because people like Ryan only feel powerful when the structure around them supports the illusion. Once that structure cracks, everything underneath starts to show. And I had already seen it. The photos. The timeline. I knew exactly what he had tried to do. He thought he could keep me while testing her. But here's what he didn't plan for. She didn't choose him. At least not the way he expected. Because from everything I saw, she treated him the same way he tried to treat me. Casual. Convenient. Replaceable. And once he stopped being useful, she disappeared. No more tags. No more late nights. No more smiling photos. Just silence. And suddenly he had nothing. No relationship. No control. No safety net. Just an apartment he couldn't afford and a woman who no longer cared enough to argue. The final shift came quietly. One night he brought it up. We were both in the kitchen. No tension, no raised voices, just quiet. We should renew the lease soon, he said. I looked at him. He said it like it was obvious. Like everything was still intact. Like nothing had changed. And that was when I knew. He still didn't understand. Not fully. Not yet. I set my glass down. You should definitely talk to the landlord, I said. He frowned. We should do it together. I shook my head. I'm not renewing. Silence. Sharp, immediate. His face went blank. What? I'm moving out. That's when it hit him. Not slowly. Not gradually. All at once. The reality. The cost. The consequence he had been avoiding since the night on the couch. You can't just leave, he said. I held his gaze. Yes, I said, I can. And for the first time, he looked afraid. The fear didn't make him softer. It made him desperate. You can't just leave, Ryan said again, like repeating it might anchor me in place. What am I supposed to do? I leaned against the counter, calm. The lease is ending, I said. I'm not renewing. That's how this works. You're just abandoning everything? There it was. That word. Abandoning. Like I was the one walking away from something intact. I shook my head slightly. There's nothing here to abandon. He stared at me like he couldn't reconcile the version of me in front of him with the one he thought he had. I can't afford this place alone, he said. Then you should find a roommate, I replied. His expression twisted. That's not funny. I'm not joking. Silence stretched between us. Because now he was finally standing in the reality he had designed. Equal rent. Separate responsibilities. No emotional leverage. No financial cushion. No me. You're seriously doing this, he said. Yes. You're ruining my life. I held his gaze. No, I said quietly. I'm just not fixing it anymore. After that, he tried everything. Again. But this time there was urgency behind it. Panic. Real panic. He started with anger. You're selfish, he snapped one night. You always make everything about you. I didn't respond. Then guilt. After everything we've been through, you're just going to walk away. I didn't respond. Then bargaining. We can fix this, we just need to try. I met his eyes. You had that option, I said. You chose something else. Then, predictably, he tried familiarity. One evening, I came home and he was waiting in the kitchen. That blue shirt I used to like. Hair styled, dinner on the table again. He looked like a version of himself from months ago, before everything shifted, before he said the quiet part out loud. We could start over, he said. I set my bag down slowly. No, I said. His face tightened. Why not? Because this was the part he still didn't understand. It wasn't about effort. It wasn't about timing. It wasn't about trying harder now that things were falling apart. It was about intention. You don't want me, I said calmly. You want what I provided. That's not true. It is, I said. You wanted freedom with a safety net. You wanted to explore other options without losing stability. He froze. Just for a second. But it was enough. Because now he knew I knew. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. I didn't argue. Didn't accuse. Didn't explain. I just looked at him, and that was worse. Because silence leaves nowhere to hide. You're imagining things, he added, weaker now. I picked up a glass, took a sip of water, set it down. You should figure out your housing, I said, and walked away. He tried bringing his father into it. That call came late. Loud voice through the phone. Angry. Demanding. You're abandoning him? His father shouted. The lease is ending, I said. I'm moving. He can't afford that place alone. Then he should make a different plan. You owe him. I cut him off. What exactly do I owe him? I asked. Silence. I let it stretch. I paid most of the expenses, I continued. I covered bills. I carried the structure. What did he contribute that creates a debt I now have to repay? Nothing. No answer. Because there wasn't one. You raised him to make decisions, I said. He made one. Now he lives with it. I hung up. The last few weeks felt hollow. Not tense. Not explosive. Just empty. Because once the outcome is clear, the conflict loses energy. He stopped trying after that. Not completely, but enough. There were no more dinners, no more soft voices, no more attempts to rewrite the narrative. Just distance, and the quiet realization that he had miscalculated something fundamental. Me. Moving day came early. The movers arrived just after sunrise. Boxes, tape, footsteps echoing through the apartment. Ryan stood in the doorway of his room watching, saying nothing, which somehow felt heavier than everything he had said before. Because silence this time wasn't control. It was loss. They carried out the furniture. The couch, the table, the shelves. Piece by piece, the apartment changed shape. And with every item that left, the illusion went with it. Because most of it had been mine. That was the part he hadn't thought about either. You're really doing this, he said finally. I zipped up the last bag. Yes, this place is going to be empty. I glanced around. It already is. That landed. He swallowed. You're ruining everything. I shook my head. No, I said. You just never realized what was holding it together. He didn't respond. Because now he could see it. The absence. The structure that had quietly existed around him, gone. The convenience. The stability. The person who made everything easier, gone. The movers carried out the last box. I did one final walkthrough. Checked the rooms. Took photos for the deposit. Everything clean. Everything done. When I came back to the living room, he was sitting on the couch. The same couch where it started. Head in his hands. Don't go, he said quietly. I paused. Just for a second. Not because I was considering it, but because I remembered. 3 years. Shared space. Shared routines. Shared illusions. And then I let it go. Goodbye, Ryan. I picked up my keys. Walked to the door. Opened it. And stepped out. My new apartment was smaller. Quieter. Mine. Adrian helped me unpack. We ordered food. Sat on the floor, surrounded by boxes. No tension. No imbalance. No quiet calculation running underneath everything. Just peace. I heard about Ryan later. Not from him, from people. Because stories like that don't stay contained. He couldn't afford the apartment. Broke the lease. Lost the deposit. Moved back in with his parents. Sold his car. The girl from work? Gone. Of course she was. Because people like her don't stay when the convenience disappears. And his friends? They faded too. Because there's only so long people will listen to someone complain about consequences they created themselves. As for me, Adrian moved in a few months later. We split everything. Exactly 50-50. Not because we had to. Because we both wanted to. We communicated. We showed up. We chose each other. Every day. No confusion. No hidden terms. No quiet negotiations happening underneath the surface. Just clarity. And effort. From both sides. I don't feel bad. Not even a little. Because Ryan didn't lose me. He gave me away. The moment he decided I was just a roommate who pays bills, he thought I would stay. That I would accept less. That I would keep giving while he kept taking. He was wrong. Because when someone tells you exactly what you are to them, believe them and act accordingly. I sleep well now, in my own space, next to someone who actually chooses me. And the best part? I didn't get revenge. I just let him live with his own decisions. And that was more than enough.